This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Slayer, Undisputed Attitude. This album was released in 1996 on American Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. Cheers.
I blend you. I blend you too.
This is my pick. I got this CD back in the 90s. I probably didn't realize it was a cover album. Like, this is a bunch of cover songs of hardcore punk bands. And I probably didn't realize that when I got it and just bought it because I fucking love Slayer and I bought everything I could find that was Slayer. So I know both of you guys are way into Slayer just like I am, but are you familiar with this album, Undisputed Attitude, Casey?
Yeah, I am. Listened to it, I think, when you bought it. And was rather disappointed in what it was for the time because I think I was expecting like a traditional Slayer album.
Like more Slayer stuff, yeah.
And I think this was right around the time I was getting into this style of music too. So it was like I really wanted that and it wasn't there.
Had you listened to this one, Nate? You're into punk too.
Yeah, I was definitely into punk, still am and stuff. But this is, out of all the Slayer albums, this is the one I've listened to least, probably.
Oh.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say like after we were kids, I don't think I ever returned to it.
I don't listen to Show No Mercy that much. Basically, anything before Hell Awaits, I don't listen to a lot.
But do you listen to this more than those?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of got a special place in my heart because I did get into it.
So where were you when somebody told you, hey, these are covers?
Like, I think I just read it.
Okay.
I think in the liner notes or whatever.
How long was it until you...
It's probably pretty... Like, I probably read the liner immediately.
Yeah, we were...
Because I was CD, so that's what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I just heard it on Spotify. I got the CD. I unwrapped it.
I think we would have like liner note parties where we would just sit around and read liner notes for every album we got back in the day.
Which is basically what this show is.
Yeah.
But there is the moment I had with this CD. So I was rally commissioner of high school, and the reason I wanted to be rally commissioner is just so I could play my own music.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And I literally played like Deicide and shit like that. And it was always contention with me and the other people involved in the rally because I'm like, no, this is what we're playing. They're like, dude, you can't play that stuff. So there would be like compromises. And this one kid I hung out with, his name was Mike.
Mm-hmm.
He was way into punk, and he's just like, he's going through my CDs, and he's like, what's this? He's like, oh, TSLOL.
Mm-hmm.
So he played that, and I shit you not, at the rally, he played the song, I forget what song it is, but at the end of it, it says, President Reagan suck my motherfucking dick. Yeah. I played that at a rally.
I remember that because you were super proud of that. That was one of the rallies that I missed on accident.
You're right, because you didn't stop going to school.
Maybe. Yeah, but I remember you were very proud of the fact that you got to play Slayer at one of the rallies.
Because the music kind of cuts out and it's just like motherfucking dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so rad.
It was brutal. I did that in my high school senior year.
Pretty good.
It's punk all over this for sure.
Well, but it's more underground punk.
It's like crossover thrash though, because it's thrashy as fuck.
So this is why Slayer sounds like Slayer.
This is what influenced Slayer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really important point.
What's cool is the bands that influenced them, I'm obviously not as old as them, but these are bands that influenced me tremendously. I mean, like a band like Minor Threat. I mean, there's a couple Minor Threat songs on here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty rad.
Yeah, so this was conceived by Kerry King. Originally, it was conceived to be a classic heavy metal album.
Like classic heavy metal covers.
With like Judas Priest, UFO, Deep Purple and stuff. But after a couple rehearsals, they decided it wasn't working out.
Thank God.
Which to me just kind of says we couldn't
play that.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Like, honestly, that would have been
a train wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been a train wreck, but I don't know if it would have portrayed Slayer's ability as well as this does.
And this is perfect because punk is not as technical as Slayer is.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So they kind of slaughter it with their playing. They nail it. The performances on this are way better than the originals.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, there's a couple. Not all
technical,
of them.
like on time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Playing.
Well, a lot of this was underground, so yeah, there was a slop factor in all that underground stuff back in the day.
Right, for sure. Because it was punk, right?
Oh, exactly.
And this is like kind of pulls the punk out of it and makes it thrash metal.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
it's punk songs.
It sounds like Slayer doing punk.
It does, and they manage to
like
throw
anything Slayer does is going to sound like Slayer. They could do a Frank Sinatra song. It's going to sound like fucking Slayer.
They do Inagata Davida, and it sounds like Slayer.
Well, and even though this is mostly underground punk, they still manage to throw the signature Slayer guitar solos here and there. I mean, they're not as good back and forth as they are in their normal stuff.
But like Nate is saying, like, this is what influenced Slayer. These guitar solos work because this is what Slayer guitar solos sound like. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's what I'm getting at. Were these guitar solos in the original song?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, I didn't listen to the original.
I did listen to the originals,
but were they that technical?
They weren't as precise and like on time.
So
I wouldn't say they strayed too much. The only times that they did stray was like obviously lyrically. You know,
well, and that's what I'm getting at.
So they do change a little bit of the lyrics.
Well, that's what I'm getting
at. And that's a Slayer thing to do too. You know what I'm saying? Like Slayer was like, okay, well,
we're gonna make it more Slayer.
We're gonna change it if we want to.
Well, so instead of dog, we're gonna say God.
Well, and so that's what I'm getting at. The guitar solos, were they Slayer-fied, or did they try to play them true to original?
They're pretty on point with the originals, but
everything sounds like Slayer.
Well, yeah,
Slayer is he probably learned that guitar solo and then has been playing that guitar solo in Slayer the whole time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because Kerry King guitar solos are great, but they're not like Yngwie Malmsteen or fucking shit like that.
Well, the thing that makes the Kerry King guitar solos so good is the back and forth.
Well, and it's style. It's like when you hear it, you know exactly who's doing. Well, you knew Jeff Hanneman and you knew Kerry King.
Right. Yes.
You know who played which.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. Without Jeff, the back and forth between Kerry and Jeff, they're just basic solos.
Yeah, I agree. Because that's where the Judas Priest influence comes in, and the punk influence. So you got these punk guitar solos, but you have the dual guitars of like Judas Priest coming together. It's kind of what Slayer is, right? Mm-hmm. And this kind of harkens back to those roots, and I think it's fucking cool for that point. So what I really liked about this when I was a kid is it takes like the parts of punk I don't like and kind of strips them out. Like the production's really good. The performances were really tight. You know, in most punk, it's like really sloppy and it kind of sounds like garbage. And at the time, I didn't like that at all. And the best thing about this whole album is Gemini, the final track.
That's, for sure.
That's 100%. The only original song on this album. To me, I'm a huge fucking Slayer fan. I've listened to every Slayer thing 1,000 times. Gemini toys with this like different sound that Slayer is able to do. You hear it again on like Skeletons of Christ. You hear it on, right? It's like this darker, more like doomy kind of.
Yeah, it's a weird sludgy sound for Slayer.
Yeah, and really like Beauty Through Order really kind of captured. I'm like, they're starting a different genre almost with some of these songs. And they never really kind of went that direction. They always maintained like that Rain and Blood, like thrashy shit. But they really are able to do dark sounding shit excellently, and Gemini is by far the highlight of this album for me. It's the last track, Gemini.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think the best part about this was Slayer's interpretation of these punk songs. Like you said, they Slayer-fied everything. This is Slayer at their punkiest. And they did a great job of taking what was already there, increasing production value, and really just kind of making it their own.
Yeah.
What I like about this is it sounds like they're having fun. I also like that their influences are some of my influences as well. I love punk. It sounds punk. But at the same time, it sounds like it could be a Slayer record. Right. Gemini is great. So I like that they had fun with it.
It's cool that like you had the same influences that like Slayer. You know what I mean? Like you are like I don't.
Well, those are some of the reasons why I like Slayer. You know what I mean?
But like I like Metallica, but I don't listen to like Bungie and that shit, like the new wave of British heavy metal. I think that stuff kind of sucks. You know what I mean? But you actually like punk, and it's clear that Slayer has and Metallica does too, to be honest, like Misfits and stuff.
For sure.
But to me, Slayer has more punk influence. It's faster than Metallica for the moment.
It's in your face. It's violent.
And I'm saying that, and you're thinking of like Fight Fire with Fire, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking fast. Now that I'm older, I appreciate punk more. Okay. And I now prefer the originals of all these songs. that not all of them, but for the most
For a
part.
majority, I agree with you. I think there's that thing when you're younger, you just want faster and heavier, and this fills that itch or scratches that itch, I should say.
Uh-huh.
But then as you get older and you taste for music develops, you kind of appreciate that sloppy.
Yeah, the raw sounding.
Yeah,
it sounds like
originals.
shit.
Yeah.
But like now I get it because like my life has sucked throughout my life at parts where I can now appreciate different.
Yeah,
dark,
And also it's genuine as hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the raw emotion of the person writing the song. You know what I mean? Like, I hate you, you know?
Well, yeah.
Like,
that song,
the guy
the original's way better.
yeah, and yeah.
Like, hands down.
And I would definitely say the originals are better than probably all the songs on here.
Mm-hmm.
But I love their take on it, and I love that they made them sound like Slayer.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like there's a lot of bands that do this kind of cover where they pay homage to bands before them, or bands that influence them, I should say. Slayer with Undisputed Attitude, Guns N' Roses with the Spaghetti Incident, Monster Magnet with whatever their new one is.
That new one, yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch
It
of
has
bands
a bunch
we've
of
never,
random...
we've
Yeah.
never Metallica, Garage Days.
Exactly,
Right.
and they're all they turn these songs that you may have never heard or that you didn't appreciate and create them and make them their own. But then you go back and it makes you go back and listen to them and you start appreciating the original, the sound and stuff, and the rawness and the grittiness and things like that. So this is a great like intro if you've never listened to those songs to go back and listen to them.
For a metalhead, for sure.
It was for me. It definitely got me. Like, this and Suicidal Tendencies kind of were gateways into punk for me.
Definitely crossover bands right there.
But the issue is you can't go into the older stuff thinking you're going to get the production value. You have to accept the fact that it's going to be gritty, it's going to be dirty. These were recorded, some of these songs in like the 60s and 70s.
Okay, so they did a couple Minor Threat songs on here, right? When Minor Threat recorded these songs, they were like still in high school.
Well, and that's what I'm getting
You know
at.
what I'm saying?
No.
Like, these people had to have, you know, it's insane.
Right, they recorded
And if you went back and you listened to, you know, some of the Minor Threat songs or the DRI songs or the TSOL songs, they sound pretty damn good for the age that they are playing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Slayer
It's
spent
insane.
like days and days and days in the studio recording. It's not even the same
Yeah.
ballpark, right?
Well, and that's what I'm
It
getting
came
at.
out in 1996, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, from a band that was already like experienced and developed.
Yeah, plenty of budget, etc. So that, I guess that's one of the things I don't like is now that I'm older and I do appreciate like you're saying, they recorded this stuff in high school, the grittier like punk stuff. This does pull it out of it, which I kind of like, but at the same time I'm like, it's not as good as the original. And also I don't like that they changed the lyrics. Like in some of the songs, I wish they would have. I don't think their decisions on their lyrics were that great. I think it's, they're trying to Slayer.
I would agree with you 100%.
So that's just like, I don't like that.
I would
And it's
agree with
also,
you
I'm not,
100%.
this is punk, right? It's like crossover thrash. It is punk. And it's hard for me to listen to an entire punk album. I'm just not that into punk. Like, I like punk songs here and there, but I can't sit down and this kind of starts to get old after a while.
Yeah, there's this thing with punk where they have that standard backbeat, almost like a thrash metal backbeat, but it just doesn't change throughout the whole thing, and it does make it kind of fatiguing to listen to. I agree with you. I think the changing of some of the lyrics was kind of uncalled for. I think to the bands who did the original songs, it's kind of a slap in the face.
And some of them were kind of like, I forget which song it is, but one of them they changed it, and the singer was like, "I think that's offensive."
Yeah, that was that "Guilty of Being White" song.
Yeah.
And it was, and they came out and said, "Oh, it was all tongue in cheek," that their fans would understand it. But the problem is you made an accessible album of punk covers. You got to accept the fact that you're probably going to pick up a new fan base with that because you're covering songs that might have been.
And also
already
bands
had a
that are
fan
like
base.
anti-fascist, anti...
Yeah, you got to give more respect to
not
the
to
source
say
material.
that they were doing... I'm not saying that Slayer's a fascist band. I'm
Not
just
at all,
saying
right.
that, the way they changed, the lyrics,
they changed it against what the original intention was.
Right, and that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you should respect the original
I don't
source
even-
material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I don't think Slayer even necessarily meant it
Well, no.
I don't think they did either.
in that way. I think they were just trying to make it, like you said, we're Slayer and we want to make it...
How can we make it more fucked up or
Yeah.
controversial?
I'm sure after,
And then in 1996, right, they could, people were getting away with
stuff like
worse all the time.
Well, and they even came out and said it was tongue in cheek and it was meant to just be, like you said, Slayerify the song. But the problem is you're picking up an entirely new fan base who might have been fans of that song. So you have to respect.
But that's what you got to respect about Slayer too, is they don't give a fuck.
And I do. I appreciate
you know what
that.
I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, I
mean
totally
that's why they
understand
came out with some of the great records that they've came out with, is because Slayer
they
just
didn't
doesn't
follow
give
the
a fuck.
norm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and in the
understand
90s, they were getting lit up in fucking court and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
People were carving Slayer in their arm.
Well, they
just
were
like
the
it
whole
was
reason there
mayhem,
were so many deaths and suicides and murders.
Yeah.
It's all because of Slayer,
Fucking-
right? So yeah. So other than that, other than like the lyrical changes and shit, the only thing that bugged me about this is it was so stiff. Like this, they did a great job of covering these songs, but I think at the same time they went out there and tried to play them as fast and as heavy as they can, and it just made the whole album feel really stiff.
It didn't sound like they put a lot of effort into it, and that's what one of my dislikes of it.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike, but this is like what I think about every cover album.
Me too.
Is like, well, the originals are better. Every once in a while, you'll get a cover that's better than the original, and a lot of times that's because you heard the cover before you heard the original.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia that goes into play with that. But the originals are better, but it's still a Slayer record, and it's decent.
Well, there's also a kind of a different way of doing it. Like, there's people who do covers that try to keep them as original, and those are the ones where you listen to it, pays homage to the original, you listen to the original, and they might have increased production value or whatever, but they keep it as true to the original as they can.
Which I think they did. They did I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges. You know what I mean?
No.
Slayer did I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges. That is weird to me. That, like, when I heard it, because I said, this is the album from Slayer that I listened to least. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I did listen to it, it was years ago. So when I heard this, and I was like, what? Taken aback by it, you know what I mean? It's crazy. And I enjoyed it, but, the Stooges definitely do that song way better.
So for me, I was not familiar with any of these songs. I didn't like punk, so I was just like, I want to be your dog. That's cool, right?
Well, and that's kind of where I was touching on. So there's these bands like this that tries to stay as original to the source material. They change a few things here and there. Then there's bands like when Guns N' Roses did Spaghetti Incident. They kept it as original as they can. Monster Magnet doing the new one kept it as original as they can. Then you got
still sounds like Monster Magnet.
It
though,
does,
man.
but they kept the original source material, the song structure and stuff. Then you got bands like Limp Bizkit who does covers and completely changes it and makes it their own. And so, is it still a cover?
Or some shit like Tori Amos doing like Slayer
or
Rain and Blood, and it's like completely
But
different.
I don't think these covers are very different from the originals.
No,
I think they're
I
straight
just
up.
think it sounds like Slayer because it sounds like Slayer.
It does
Slayer will
sound like
always
Slayer.
sound like,
Yeah.
Tom will always sound like Tom. I mean, who was the drummer in this?
Paul Bostaff.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's a punk covers, right? What did you guys rate it?
I rate this a 3.0.
Okay.
I like that they're covering bands that influenced me. I think that's rad. I like that they kind of made it their own, and it sounds like a Slayer record. I think it's listenable, and I'd probably listen to it again. So 3.0.
I give this a 3.2. It's fun to listen to. I don't go back and listen to it a lot of times. But Gemini is a masterpiece of a Slayer song. And it sucks because it's like very...
kind of underrated.
Well, it's because it's on this album
and
and no one's listening to it, right? Because it's just punk covers.
So I gave it a 2.8. So I'm kind of with both of you guys. It's a good covers album, but I think the stiffness and the fact that, it kind of takes away from what makes Slayer Slayer. It feels kind of rushed.
It sounds like Tom's reading off the lyrics.
It almost does, but it also feels like this was like one of those, like if you were in high school and you just started a punk band and you're just trying to play as hard and fast as you can.
I don't know. They're playing it pretty decent, I would say.
They're totally playing it decent, but I just feel like it takes away from Slayer being Slayer. Gemini is the gem.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's the weakest of all Slayer albums. It's the weakest of all Slayer albums.
I think it's better than Show No Mercy.
Really?
No.
Yeah, Show No
I think
Mercy.
it's the weak knee. Like, if I was going to fight Slayer's discography, I'd kick it in the knee, and it would be this.
You kick it in Divine Intervention.
Yeah, I'd kick it in its knee, and I'd run away. I would run away because God knows what would happen after.
That's so good. So good. This is Blenderstyle. That was Slayer, Undisputed Attitude.
I'm gonna be your blender.